Hey, good time of day to all of you guys. Just bringing my microphone closer. I hope you can see and hear me well. Um, this is Grandmaster Yermolinsky, and welcome back to my live show. Now, it still goes under the title that every Russian schoolboy knows, but it's a live show, hey, and those of you... Good time of day to all of you guys. Just bringing my... those of you who are regulars here, and I see some familiar names there in the chat. Well, you know that I cover current events. This is sort of a recap. Sometimes it's game of the day, but I rarely talk just about one game. Well, this is an interactive show, and you guys can take it away into any kind of direction. But I would like you to kind of stay more or less within the parameters of what we're talking about. So today is a recap of the rapid part of the first leg of the Grand Chess Tour 2017 that is taking place in Paris. All right. First of all, how are you up to the system of the Grand Chess Tour? Do you know the players? Do you know the tournaments and all that? I should probably do a quick roundup of that. Now, Grand Chess Tour series branched out of Garry Kasparov, and it started in the year 2015. Started with just incorporating the existing big tournaments, Norway Chess, then Greenfield Cup and London Classic into one big series. A field of 10 players was selected to compete, and actually a field of 9 players, so giving the organizers of every and each tournament a chance to put their wild card in. Wild cards do not participate in the overall tour race, not only because they simply cannot get enough points to figure on that by playing in just one tournament, but it's also stated in the rules. In 2016, I think the first year's winner was Magnus Carlsen, who barely aged with some complicated tie breaks and whatnot. Barely aged, Anish Giri, who played extremely well and never lost a game throughout the entire series of tournaments in 2015, and Maxim Vashyevograf. There was a problem really with the scoring over there, because for whatever mysterious reason the organizers decided to use tie breaks to determine the points in the Grand Chess Tour in standings of every individual event. I personally find this absolutely inappropriate, if not ridiculous. Okay, suppose you have a tie somewhere, not even a first place tie. I could kind of understand, that you want to see a winner of the tournament, but Grand Prix points absolutely have to be shared, like it's done in FIDE Grand Prix tournaments. I thought I would be the last person, to put FIDE as an example to follow, but nonetheless, there was a lot of money riding on this whole thing. I believe it was $100,000 to the overall winner of the Grand Chess Tour, followed by 75 grand and 50 grand. And for this to be decided in one blitz game, no, it's just rather too much. You can't really, put this whole thing in a situation where absolutely unnecessary for no reason at all, one wrong move can spoil fruits of your work for the entire season. Anyway, yeah, okay, it's all history. Now, in 2016 came some changes. Since Norway Chess dropped out of this, apparently they weren't happy to be kind of just, second fiddle in this whole thing. Imagine yourself being organizers and working with sponsors of this tournament, and then you have to tell them, yeah, but the players will be selected by Garry Kasparov, by somewhat archaic in some ways, system of taking just one rating list in the beginning of the year, say, January 2016, and then determining 9 players, not 2, not 3, not even 5, but 9 players out of 10 for your tournament, you guys are basically putting your money for. I mean, it's pretty hard, So I understand that Norway chess just dropped out. Besides, there was a clear scheduling conflict because Carlsen was involved in the World Championship match, and he simply could not play in the London Classic tournament, the last leg of this thing. So some changes were made, I believe, kind of on the fly. And the new tournaments that are not classical time control tournaments were introduced. It's rather a combination of rapid and blitz. Both players also feature 10 players. This is how it was in 2016. And they were held in same locations, Paris and then Leuven, Belgium. In those tournaments, you have both rapid and blitz, right? So they start off with 3 days of rapid, playing just 3 games a day. Now, those games count twice. So if you win the game in rapid, you get 2 points. Draw gives you 1. Then, after the 3 days of rapid, comes blitz, where the same 10 players will play each other twice, 9 rounds on Saturday, 9 rounds on Sunday. And those games will be counted normally. 1 point and half point for a draw. Now, it's reasonable, it's logical, because obviously if there's more games in the blitz, they should weigh less. So this part of the system was retained for this year, 2017. All right, so maybe I'm repeating what you already know, but, well, there are some changes here for 2017. I will remind you also that Magnus was just a wild card in the rapid and the blitz in Paris and Leuven, then he didn't show up for other tournaments, the Greenfield Cup and the London Classic. So the result, we had Wesley So, who played extremely well last year, we remember that. Wesley won it very convincingly, pocketed another 100 grand, everything's nice and cool. And finishing after him were 2 more American players, Nakamura and Caruana. Everybody's happy, fantastic. Well, it's not Grand Prix, it's Grand Chess Tour. Obviously, not only Magnus Carlsen, who doesn't need to qualify for the candidates, he doesn't participate in the candidates. So he doesn't have to play in the Grand Prix. The Grand Prix is a different thing. It's run by FIDE, and it's part of the World Championship qualification. We already have 2 tournaments of the new series, and it's going to be 2 more, and the next one in Geneva coming up, I believe, next month. From those tournaments, it's basically second-tier players. You don't see Caruana playing over there. There is no Wesley So. There is, because they count on the finishing second and third in world rankings, when all the ratings for this year, 2017, are combined together. Although, it's not so clear now, because of some changes, Kramnik suddenly is in second position, and Aronian is breaking in. So it's not really clear, if that strategy chosen by So and Caruana, which was to skip Grand Prix tournaments, would see them through into the candidates by rating. Well, they're still in a position to do this, but there is a lot of tournaments to be played. I will remind you that it's not going to be decided until the last rating on December 1st, 2017 is going to be published. Mamedyarov now leads the FIDE Grand Prix. He's in a good position, but there are some other players in contention. Dingliren is in second place, and Grishuk's not that far behind, and Nakamura still has chances. And okay, we'll return to this when we talk about the 3rd tournament in Geneva. Let's just forget about World Championship qualification. This is not what Grand Chess Tour, the tournament we're covering now, and the whole series is about. It's basically just have this premier events for very top players, and it has absolutely nothing to do with FIDE. So, what we have this year, different from 2016, is that another rapid and blitz tournament, just like the one that it's played now in Paris, has been added. And that's going to take place in St. Louis immediately after Sinquefield Cup. Interestingly enough, and then there's going to be Sinquefield Cup, of course, and then the London Classic. Every player of the 9 players selected, and they are selected by rating as of January this year, will get to play 2 classical tournaments, both Sinquefield Cup and London Classic, and 2 out of the 3 rapid/blitz events. Sounds complicated, right? No, that's how it is. I'm not quite sure if all 4 results is going to be taken into the overall Grand Chess Tour count. I heard somewhere that only 3 best results would be taken into account to combine the points. Points you get based by your standings in the tournament. You finish first, you take 13 points. You finish second, it's 10. You can look it up on their website, Grand Chess Tour, whatever. Just type it in your search engine, and you can learn about the participants and all that. There is a bunch of wild cards. So for this tournament, and I'm going now to our cross table. In this tournament, now they're in order they finished, obviously, in the rapid, but this is only half of the tournament. So no money and no Grand Chess Tour points are awarded based on this. Not yet. In reality, we shouldn't forget to multiply those points by 2 to see where they stand before the start of the blitz. No, well, there is no combination between... Okay, I understand. So Grand Chess Tour is kind of a Grand Prix thing, but it's not FIDE Grand Prix. It has nothing to do with World Championship qualification. No, right. Well, anyway, we got that clear. So this is where we are. So Magnus actually has 14 points, and Grishuk is at 13. And Nakamura, therefore, 12, and MVL and Mamedyarov with 11, and so on, so forth and so on. Now, they're going to be playing with this starting position. The points going to be combined. They're going to be playing each other twice in the Blitz tournament, which will begin tomorrow and then continue Sunday. And I will provide you with the coverage of this event. I believe Sunday. Yeah, of course, same day, because of the time difference. Well, Bacrot is not new top 10 player. What happened there, that we have certain wild cards. Now, if you look at the names in this cross table, 6 of these players are regular participants of the Grand Chess Tour. They will get to play both classical tournaments and another rapid/blitz event. Be it Leuven, Belgium, or St. Louis later this summer, I don't know. Well, you can look it up on Grand Chess Tour website. But the fact is that there are 6 guys out of the 10 who are in the running for the whole thing. Now, those are Carlsen, Nakamura, Vasheva Graf, So, Karyakin, and Caruana. The other 4 players, Grishuk, Mamedyarov, Topalov, and Bacrot, are wild cards. They in this thing for just one tournament. At least I see no indication anywhere that they would be invited back. Although you can never tell, because wildcards have not been announced for either one of the classical tournaments or for the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. I do know, however, that in tournament in Leuven, Belgium, which is going to start just next week, these events to follow one another will not have Grishuk, Mamedyarov, Topalov, and Bacrot, but instead they will have Kramnik, Giri, Ivanchuk, and Jabava. All right, how do you look at this when you're just a wild card? No, it's basically a nice little event over there. First prize for this whole thing is 35 grand, if you win it. Second is not too shabby, like 25, then 20. So from point of view of Grishuk and Mamedyarov, they're just showed up here to play a little rapid, little blitz, and well, hopefully to come up with some cash after it's all said and done. Then they can go back to their work in Geneva. I don't know if they both play there. I haven't checked the lineup for that Grand Prix. Or maybe they have to wait till the tournament in Palma de Mallorca in the fall. Anyway, they'll complete the tournament and hopefully they will qualify for the candidates, so life goes on. But for now, for them, it's just take the money and run. Alright. Same obviously goes for Topalov and Bacrot, but looking at these guys now where they stand, you don't expect them to win a whole lot of money in this particular event. Alright. Let's now look how it went. Now, we see Magnus in first place, which is no surprise because we know that despite his somewhat underwhelming performances in recent classical tournaments, and his rating is at a long-time low of, I believe, just 28-22, some 10 points, 11 points ahead of whoever was second, Kramnik or so, I don't remember. There was even a moment during that Norway chess when if Magnus lost his game when he played Karyakin, he ended up winning that game. And Kramnik won his, that then Kramnik would take first place in the life rating. So this is how close this thing is. But alright, you know, no, well, it's just one concern. I'm sure Magnus doesn't want to lose his leading position in the classical life rating list. But okay, we'll talk about this when they get together to play their next classical tournament. Now, they calculate rapid and blitz ratings also separately. And over there, Magnus has a very comfortable lead. If I'm not mistaken, I checked it today, however briefly, Magnus is the only player in the rapid that's over 2900. He's at 2915. He's chased by a group of guys that are pretty much represented in this tournament as Grishuk, Mamedyarov, MVL, somewhere Ivanchuk is over there as well. And there, I think Grishuk is in second and he's 2850. So there is a sizable gap of 60 points. But I would say this, that 60 points probably reflects the current strength of players. For example, what's the 65 points? It translates to about 60%, right, of the expected result. Suppose tomorrow we have Grishuk going, playing a rapid match with Magnus Carlsen, 10 games. They start tomorrow or whatever, or next week. Alright, so they play 10 games in rapid. Suppose Magnus wins 4, loses 2, and 4 games are drawn. Would you be totally shocked? Would Magnus say, oh, I don't know, I played so badly? No. I mean, it's kind of a reasonable result to expect. No, things may change in the future, although I think that Magnus's position in World's rapid and blitz rankings are much more secure than classical. Well, there is something there with classical chess that bothers Magnus. Somehow he's just not comfortable and no, his game doesn't flow the way that it used to. Now, by the way, what happened there, Anthony? Well, I just don't give me any links because obviously I cannot embed, you know, any kind of... Now, just describe it in your own words if you can. What exactly the exchange was, because I heard it somewhere, but I was working on the article, my daily report for ChessBase, on the same event, obviously, and I simply didn't have the time. Well, yeah, so I'm, while you gather your thoughts, you know, like if you could, Anthony, please, I will continue on with my musings on this situation. I think Magnus is simply more comfortable playing faster time controls because he doesn't have time to worry about this preparation and openings, they largely I mean, they play some role, but not as big as in classical. And he lets his game flow better. And I noticed that throughout this tournament, I don't think he was ever in time trouble. Oh, so that was about Chess Engine. Did Ashley tell him, Magnus, you played a bad move? I saw that. No, well, I mean, I understand. No, well, the thing with Ashley, no, I don't know if it's probably a lifetime job for him, due to wonders of our diversity and affirmative action. Well, I mean, I understand he has some good qualities, and well, he brings what some people take as energy. Well, to me, it's mainly noise, but anyway, and that's okay, I'm not necessarily in their target group. Obviously, they try to attract people who don't normally follow chess, or at least not as closely as I am. So, I mean, I can guess, no, that's what it was probably. But okay, anyway, as far as how Magnus, if he reacted rudely, what exactly did he say? Why didn't have smooth wins? Well, I mean, in general, smooth wins, like what? I mean, Magnus, okay, let me show this thing again. Now, we're talking here, well, 7 out of 9, okay, against arguably, some of the best players in rapid chess in the world. Good for performance of 29.97, 3 points short of 3,000. How is that not smooth? Besides, show me one game from this tournament where Magnus Carlsen was in danger of losing. I don't know what's this. Well, to me, it's indeed, it's ridiculous. It's much worse than what I thought it was. Engine suggestions, okay, we understand. Well, this is totally out of line. I mean, if you look at this, like if you simply look at that line, look at this line 1 over there. What is not smooth about it? And then look at the games again. I'll probably show you maybe 1 or 2 today. I mean, what is this, where is the hiccup? Maybe he meant to say Carlsen's bad play in Norway. No, well, it's yesterday's news. Okay. Anyway, alright, so it's nothing. I don't even think it's controversy, but no, well. Anyway, it's kind of sad, when things like this happen, but, well, Magnus, in some ways, he gets constantly under this barrage, of questions, and most of them are loaded questions, I really hate, modern sports journalism. Hey, Albert, says a female reporter to Albert Bell, the slugger for the Cleveland Indians, after a playoff game. Today you went 0 for 4 and left 7 men on base. How do you feel about it? I mean, it's almost like, they're just testing, players' patience. And it happens right after, the game is over, and even before people can hit showers. Alright, anyway, forget about this. I would like to go to the games. What is better, Stockfish or Houdini? There's no difference. They're all the same. They're computers. I mean, well, I don't know. As far as like trying to outrun them, in your calculations, it's as pointless. I mean, is it going to be a Porsche, or whatever, or some Honda, like anyway, you have about equal chance, to be left in a cloud of dust. This is not important. At least not for my purposes. I don't know if maybe the very top players, but I think it's not only the engines, the software they choose. I think they're more interested in more sheer computer power. They talk about supercomputers, 96 core or whatever, something that's, simply it goes beyond my ability to imagine. And but I would say that it has very little to do with their actual performance. Most of these guys, and I will probably not mention any names, they're long gone, from the top of the chess world. The ones that thought that computers somehow will give them eternal youth. To me, no, well, in computers they discovered a fountain of childishness, which is not exactly the same thing. Now, that's why I love rapid chess. Blitz, I'm not so sure about it. Rapid to me is perfect, and I agree with Alexander Grishuk, one of the best players in the world in rapid, that one day we should simply do away with classical and just play rapid chess all the time. Albert Bell, the Bell with an E in the end. Yeah. Anyways, okay, let's go to the games now. So after first day, Wednesday, in Paris, Magnus and Wesley. Okay, this is the game between them. They set in the lead, 2.5 out of 3. Neither one of them played particularly well, and here I'm jumping on Ashley's bandwagon maybe a little bit. In the first day, well, there was some difference. Carlsen just had tough games. Well, he played a correct draw, had to defend a little bit against Grishuk, but he behaved, as they say, he didn't go crazy. He was slightly worse with black out of the opening, held his draw. And then, he received a couple of gifts from his opponents. Mamedyarov and Vashieva Graf. Surprisingly, some of the better players in the Rapid, as the final standings of the Rapid part, indicates, and probably overall standings after Blitz would indicate the same. I saw those games. You can probably find them analyzed everywhere, but Magnus played extremely well, and it's not his fault that these guys decided to end their games kind of abruptly by losing them. It's not like, they had any particular lines that would even force a draw for them. They just had better moves that would not lose on the spot, and many of them. Yet, for whatever mysterious reasons, they played bad moves, and Magnus just took it. That's fine. Wesley's road was little rockier, because his positions were quite suspect. And actually in both games that he won. He beat Bacrot and he beat Caruana. Against Caruana he was simply lost by force. We'll talk a little bit about Caruana's terrible performance. Well, by using the old system, right? Whatever system you use, he's in dead last, right? With only 3 draws for the entire tournament. 1.5 points. His rapid rating, I think, dropped below 2700. If Magnus is over 29, then Caruana is below 27. So this is like expected performance of about 77% for Magnus Carlsen against Fabiano Caruana. I cannot find any form of chess, be it rapid blitz, or gotta take it, or whatever, or standing on your head, or whatnot, where Caruana should only be expected to score 23% against anybody, who walks this planet, even Magnus Carlsen. Fabiano is way too good a player for that. So hopefully it's just an aberration. Fabiano suffered from terrible time management issues throughout the whole tournament. So anyway, so he blows this win against Wesley, and then Wesley has a wild game against Bacrot. Etienne, he hasn't been playing against these guys in a very long time, and he probably never counted on that, so his performance was to be expected. So Wesley also is 2.5, and now they face each other. Let's see this game, because this game, to me, defined the tournament for both of them. For number 1 and number 2 in the classical rating list. Now, so Wesley opens with e4, and now I'll go quickly through all the stuff. They play it all the time. I can add anything to it. Anyway, Magnus plays this move, bishop e6, right? Now, I saw some games in similar positions, and I can't really discern a difference, where white pulls the bishop back to c2. Because to me, the position of the bishop on e6 is rather questionable in some situations, because white then at some moment can play d4 and then d5 even to fork these pieces. To me, it's all about if black is able to play d5 or not. But anyway, who am I to judge? This happened, queen takes b3, and Magnus plays his move d5. First thing is about the pawn. Well, we realize we've seen it before. The queen is trapped, mainly thanks to that little move a6, which was designed, of course, to create a retreat square for the bishop, but it comes in rather handy in this situation as well. Okay. Well, gone are the days when people would take one look at this position at the times of whatever. Geller, Bronstein, Keres, and maybe Tal, and other guys. Actually, Tal was one of the first players who started playing this modest move d3 in various variations of the Ruy Lopez. But even when Tal played it, it was considered, it's a big concession, white's not really playing for an advantage anymore. Those days are long gone. Now, because of the Berlin and some other things, and now white even goes into this Italian game where he cannot push the pawn to d4, but they have this structure to work with. So in itself, I cannot say that d5 necessarily means that black is doing great in this. Maybe in this position he does. Because somehow, if you think of the future of that bishop on c8 versus the white bishop on c2, then maybe the white bishop has brighter future. Once again, I'll go back to this position. Even with this, there is some kind of possibility for white maybe to play d4 at some moment and open up this bishop. And the bishop on e6 it blocks the rook, makes the e5 pawn a little shaky. So in my layman's opinion, well, Wesley really helped Magnus to equalize. No, look, computers, well, it's like, it's just another appliance, for crying out loud, we use them because, well, they make our life easier, but there's always this danger, that we will lose something that trains us and prepares us for, like in life, and same thing in chess. I don't know. I mean, look at me now, no? Alright, you probably so used to seeing me that you, I mean, obviously, that changes, but in some time ago, well, before I moved to the United States and bought my first car there, I was like using public transportation or walking in a lot of places. Well, I was 40 pounds lighter. That's the price we pay for this. Now, I know, I hope the same thing will not happen to my brain. No, maybe not in terms of gaining the actual brain mass, but some kind of ossifying process because I rely on computers and my analysis. I mean, I'm trying to think on my own. I encourage you to do the same. Anyway, bishop e3. So white's trying to do the same thing. And look at Carlsen. He pulled the bishop back. I mean, if you only look at the pawn on e4 versus the pawn on e5, you may get the wrong impression that this bishop is actually better than the bishop on f8. But it's where the pieces can get. Now, well, this bishop obviously blocked the e file. Now we have this problem with the e4 pawn. And it's also subject to at some moment at the move d5, d4, which is going to be a classic space grab, taking the game in some kind of maybe King's Indian or rather Boga Indian covers reversed structure. And what's the use of the bishop on e3? No, okay, Wesley played this. Now Magnus plays very well. And he has a plan. At the cost of moving his knight, well, a little bit away, but it's only for one move, he managed to put his pawn on c5. He's getting the Maraxi bind, or he pushes the pawn forward. Well, clearly Magnus was not very keen on this, because he didn't like this pawn structure change. Look at the black c-pawn left behind. A pawn left behind. I mean, it's more likely to see white moving that knight away, even quietly to h2, and, getting the pawn front moving forward. The e4 pawn is no longer blocked. White has pawn advantage on the king side, where it may be more important is black using his pawn advantage, whereas b5, c5, and c4. Not there. So Magnus didn't want that, and he played this. And now Wesley didn't feel comfortable with allowing black to play d4. Well, honestly, I don't know. If Magnus would even play d4. I mean, Magnus doesn't mind positions with, many pawns on the board, but I don't recall his particular liking for blocked positions with pawn chains. I'm not sure what he would do. It's fairly standard situation, and Wesley didn't like it. That's the most important thing. Well, probably, as it happens now in pretty much every game Wesley so plays with the white pieces, he gets absolutely nothing. Zero, zilch out of the opening. What is that? No, well, I mean, people adjusted to his openings and to his style of play. And any player has to constantly reinvent themselves. Here I subscribe to what Garry Kasparov said. You simply cannot sit on what you have and expect the success to follow you for a long time. Now, not even for a couple of years. This is why we have this game of musical chairs played in the world's ranking places from 2 to 10. So one day, it's Caruana jumps up, then he leaves, next comes Nakamura, drops, then Giri visits 2800, then Wesley is there, now Aronian made a comeback. God knows what it's gonna look like, at the end of the year. I absolutely fail to predict that. And now we may even have more volatility over there, because Magnus Carlsen himself seemed to be coming down from his, Mount Olympus, and then, well, the way he plays classical chess recently, he's just one of the guys. What was so funny about the game between Magnus and Sergey? I thought it was the usual battle of like they had at the World Championship. Magnus was always slightly better, won a pawn, but couldn't break down Sergey's resistance. Anyway, this game I find much, much better, to be honest. Okay, so we got this. Now, anybody would look at this position and say, I prefer black. You have a classic Maraxi bind. Well, White did this, it does nothing, right? He didn't even have the time to kind of stop b5, even if it was possible. I don't know, maybe not, maybe it wasn't possible at all. So b5 was played, now he does this. I've seen this. That's what they do sometimes on the black side of the Bogo Indian, just getting the knight to b5, and in their case on b4. The knight is protected and it's safe, but all the same it's kinda out of play on the main area of the chessboard. It reaches to d6, true, and it can be traded if black plays knight to d4, but other than that, it just sits there. Maybe it beats keeping this knight on f1 or g3, well, although I'm not sure why. Well, but anyway, so Magnus kinda shrugged it off, he wasn't impressed. And there comes this. Rook a1. How do you read this move? White is trying to use the a file, but the infiltration square a7 is clearly covered by the black knight. That is in no hurry to go anywhere. In the meantime, White is removing this rook from the d file, where the main job was to protect the protected d3 pawn. So how do you read this move rook a1? What's about, I mean, what is it all about? Oh, they had blunders in Karyakin, in Carlsen Karyakin game today. I skimmed through it very fast. I had so many games to work on today. Plus, I had some other things to do. You know, I'm not prepared to talk about this game. I'm sure it is already analyzed elsewhere. There are a lot of guys, you know, who analyze now. I'm not the only, no, not out of work. I don't consider myself out of work, but kind of like a grandmaster with a lot of time on his hands, you know, so you can sit there, you know. And then today, in this day and age, you know, with those streaming software, you know, anybody can make a YouTube video, and there are probably 10 guys already who made YouTube videos on this game. So I cannot contribute to this. I am sorry. So looking at this move rook a1, this is what I read about it. Wesley simply did not believe in his ability to hold on against Magnus Carlsen in this inferior situation. Well, let's take a look. I'm just guessing. I'm just playing some moves. I don't know if there's a good moves or average moves. More likely the average moves. Okay, let's get it. Let's get this whole thing over there. Here. Bishop there. Rook d1. Whose turn is it? Okay, knight h5, g3. No, right, so we reach some kind of equilibrium here, right? Well, I mean, the pawn on a5 is attacked multiple times, but it's defended. Now, black obviously should have some ambition of doing something here, but he has two plans. Either he takes some risk by advancing his kingside pawns, which now there will be tactical possibility, who knows. f5, g5, and it's not that easy, despite the absence of this bishop, it's not that easy to really attack the white king. Or he can try to cleverly switch at some moment to the d3 pawn, which white can protect, and I look for some tricks with e4, but it's a game. Black is better, but it's a game. Now, Wesley simply did not believe he could play Magnus in this situation. And that's a bad sign, because, well, not every game you're going to come out of the opening in excellent shape. Even against Magnus Carlsen, who kind of ignores those things and doesn't really spend a whole lot of time fine-tuning his openings. That's what makes him great, by the way. If you don't believe in this, you know, then you already put yourself in a position of psychological disadvantage. And this is how I read this move. Maybe you can say, oh, Alex, you read too much in it. It's just a random move. Okay, maybe. This, rook a6, there. Okay, the knight's protected now. Queen takes d3. Well, if Wesley was consistent, he should have played this move. Maybe he disliked this move because it's like, what are my rooks doing over there? You still cannot come to e7. No, and one useful thing is that if black wins this pawn, the knight c7 begins to bother his rook that is meant to stay there on e6 and protect the knight, and perhaps there is no better than repeat the moves. Maybe. Well, obviously the problem with the move like, not this, with rook a1, you give the opponent a chance to do this and he gets to pick and choose when. Maybe there is some way of preparing it. What do I know? No idea. Maybe he plays a move like this, just to make more space for the rook to stay on the6 after black takes on d3, so the rook could go to g6, potentially with some knight f4, who knows. I mean, I have no idea, but no, tactically speaking, rook a1, well, it was sound. I mean, computers. Computer God told me that it doesn't lose by force. Well, the move Wesley did kinda loses by force. Now, Magnus absolutely has no inhibitions. One of the best things about Magnus Carlsen, at least when he's in a groove, and these days Rapid and Blitz kinda puts him in this groove. Well, he has absolutely no inhibitions and he never looks back. He just plays a move that he believes is right. No, why should he be afraid of anybody? He's a world champion. Now, this looked ridiculous, and when I saw it played, I couldn't get it. I thought it was too early in the morning and maybe I missed something. Well, then I realized that an attempt to play this position normally, which is knight c7, right? Hit this and open up on the knight. That, I suppose, was the idea of queen a4. No, it gets turned back by this shot. The main line of this variation is, totally fascinating. Well, by the way, we shouldn't even bother with this. We shouldn't be bothering with this. It's just so totally lost. I don't know, what are we talking about here? White has an extra pawn and he is hitting that bishop on d2. Now this thing will probably lose to the in-between move rook d6, followed by this capture. There's nothing to talk about. So the only move in reply to knight d4 would be to start taking this big stuff, right? You always begin your calculations with attempting to take the biggest piece. Alright, then I saw this, check. I always look at checks. Now, here you perk up, at least I do. Now the king is open. The queen, the rook, they're far back. Okay, let me do this. Knight takes d8, right? A knight take. King g2. Well, we shouldn't stop our calculations here. Although there are some positional considerations here that speak loudly in Black's favor. White's compromised king and his totally scattered pieces. Now, well, we don't mind calculating a little bit. Now this move threatens, mate in 2. This is the only move I can see. Check. There. Queen d2. Obviously, Black is not interested in trading. Honestly, I don't think that Magnus bothered to calculate any further. His intuition obviously should tell him that something is gonna give here. And White is not gonna be able to save his knight that is wandering, around in some empty squares. And the rook's out of play. And actually are threats. Oh yeah. Hit this. More threats. But those things you don't have to calculate beforehand. It's just fun stuff. Queen g5 followed by knight takes f3. Well, I went slowly because I have all the time in the world, right? I got this far. I don't see what White is going to do against this. Checkmate, actually. Oh, well, you can run away, but you're dropping the knight. By the way, the bishop, when time comes, the bishop will support the queen getting to h2. So basically, game is over. I'm sure Magnus saw either this far or maybe didn't bother looking that far, but he saw enough. So did Wesley saw. Now, the move bishop takes h6 is actually credit should go where credit's due. Modern chess high-rated player games can be compared with previous generation. No, certainly they can be compared. Modern players are better than previous generation. as the previous generation. Just as Kasparov was better than Karpov, and he proved it by playing 5. I know what generation is. I'm always confused when people talk about generation. It's probably 20 years or 25 years apart, right? Okay, so then it's Kasparov versus Carlsen. They're 27 years apart. But it's only 12 years between Kasparov and Karpov. Okay, it's never really very accurate. Now, okay, let's take step 25 years back from today, right? That would be what? What's 25 years? 1992, right? Yeah, well, Kasparov was 5 times or whatever world champion and the best player in the world. I'm not sure, he was... obviously he was strong, but against Carlsen of today, there's no chance. No, they had their beautiful games, no doubt about it, but chess, I don't really believe in the various theories when it comes to history, not just chess history, world history, of some kind of a... there could be some kind of plateau thing. I don't know how long it lasts, in geological terms, probably not too long. In terms of a human lifespan, well, yeah, it could last your lifespan easily. Some kind of plateau, people use words like stagnation. But generally speaking, it's maybe a spiral kind of movement, but, well, everything's supposed to be moving forward. In my opinion. No, of course, it's mainly not the area of science, it's the area of belief. I believe in that. Someone else may believe in the cyclical whatever, and think, that, some ancient Egypt was more advanced, than the 21st century. No, well, yeah, it's your right to believe in it. Yeah, bishop takes h6. No, he's removing this bishop that's basically gonna die. But no, just to look at it, just at one look at this, it's hard to believe that would work, right? Your bishop's on pre, you're kind of counting on this, which may or may not win your pawn back. And more importantly, it's black pieces that totally dominate. Now, Magnus played g takes h6. Now, was it not smooth enough for Maurice Ashley? Well, e4. Yeah, I would look at e4, of course. Actually, computers, as I found out later, well, they're very much supportive of the move e4. Well, the thing is, it doesn't actually win any material, right? After all the obvious captures, it's even. But it's only even by, by pieces and pawns. In reality, White may be more lost here than he was lost in the game continuation, because knight and queen. You can play with the knight on b5 as long as there are other pieces there to do other jobs. The problem with having a piece, out of play, even if it's safe, like the knight on b5, is just it only takes a few exchanges, few trades, for this to become the telling factor. Now, black is threatening to take queen takes h3, and the queen's out of play. I think it's totally lost. I don't see how it's possible to defend this. Okay, I can do this. Do I need bishop g7? I might. I'm actually thinking first of... Yeah, I can play bishop g7, chase that rook away and grab the f2 pawn. Mate quickly to follow. I don't even need the c4 pawn and the b2 pawn. I think it's over. Alright, so Magnus went materialistic, but... Well, I think there was a reason for that. Well, he didn't expect bishop takes h6. Nobody would. And when you play rapid and blitz game, well, you have to think fast, right? And it's important to not to get distracted. You simply don't have the time to take long breaks, not only because he may lose on time or struggle on time trouble later on, like happened to Caruana in near every game he played. There is also a problem of breaking your rhythm. It's that rapid and blitz, it's just a rhythm. You have to have your intuition working, because you can't just consider and reconsider and calculate and recalculate on every move. So Magnus went along the main line, which starts with captures, right? And he found this satisfactory. What's wrong with that? Nothing. Besides, he wanted to play his move knight d4. So he did. Now, this is the point of bishop takes h6. This knight hangs. But Magnus never stops his calculations when he has tempo moves at his disposal. And knight c6, and he didn't stop there. Some people would stop and think, okay, I'm not getting that piece. Well, what do I do? Is it good for me? Probably good, but is it really the best I could get? So this is the way why some people in a classical time control game would probably not abandon g takes h6 completely, but start looking at e4. This is how I would do this. Because this position looks a little murky. But of course, that what looks murky can be solved by what I call hard science in chess. Games on third day. Well, okay. But what was wrong in third day, I didn't look very deeply at the... he tried to beat Caruana, he was blocked, he was up a pawn. Well, gave it a good effort, and obviously Caruana was in terrible form, but no, at least for one game, Fabiano was refused to lose. And then the last round win against Bacrot, I can show it to you maybe later. I'm not sure. It wasn't so bad, actually. Magnus played reasonably well. I don't know. I think that was all unwarranted. The third day scores 2 out of 3 and still maintains the lead. Anyway, here Magnus in this game found move queen f5. He probably had to see it beforehand, because the idea is to bring the queen to d7. That surprisingly, I don't know, miraculously or not, actually hits both knights. There was no fault in Magnus's calculation, no. Yeah, you try to do this, then queen d7. You unpinned, well, good for you, but no, he hits both knights. Black wins. Something similar happened to the game. Knight d5 and just quiet, nice move, queen e6. Now, well, a good opposition Magnus had, before this whole thing started, probably allowed for more than one solution. That was his choice. Well, I think it's good enough. So, great win. I don't want to go through the motions the rest of the game. Extra piece. Alright. So that was Magnus and his story. About other guys. Well, they had their moments. I particularly refer to players who finished in top half. All of them had real good games. Grishuk, Nakamura, Vashieva Graf, and Mamedyarov. I'll probably start with this game, which was, in my opinion, a very nice win by Hikaru Nakamura over Etienne Bacrot. And this game, Hikaru started off with the King's Indian attack, just as Bobby Fischer, used to play sometimes. And Etienne, not too many people like this exchange on e4, but that's an interesting plan. Black is trying to play on a d file with his pieces. And he's hoping that the white pawn on e5 would prove to be overextended. White, on the other hand, is hoping that behind this pawn he can bring his pieces to attack on the king side. So it's an interesting strategic battle here. Who do I think will be next contender? Really, I don't know. To me, it's just parity. Like I mean, I even include Magnus strangely in this, although no, it may reverse. But right now, with the last tournaments, actually even including the World Championship match last year, Magnus Carlsen simply does not show his superiority in classical chess over others, and the rating is best indication of that. As far as these guys, I tell you who I would like to see. I want to see really a fresh face there, all the way to World Championship match. I want to see Dingley Ren, or Dingley Zheng, as they properly pronounce, properly, at least the closest I can get to Chinese pronunciation. Dingley Zheng, yeah! I want to see this guy play in a World Championship match. Hey, he's young, he's in good physical shape, and he is completely devoted to the game, and I think he has the chops. Ding, yeah, I think nothing to take away from Mamedyarov, and he played fantastic at both Grand Prix tournaments. But Ding, man, the way he won that second tournament in Moscow, I mean, that was very impressive. I don't know about Grishuk. I don't believe that Grishuk simply has the patience now to go through so many tournaments of classical chess. I don't think so. But anyway, 98 was a blunder with knight f6. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't look this far. Okay, well, I don't want to go back, let's go for this game. I kind of tend to accept blunders as no, maybe not. It's not the most pleasant part, They bring some excitement. It's turnaround and all that. Sometimes, when they pile up, too thick, it becomes kind of sad. But I mean, blunders, mistakes are part of the game, and I want players to take risks. Maybe for the whole tournament, the player who made the least number of mistakes was Wesley So himself. No, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but maybe not. Well, he didn't win any games on second and third day, and I don't think he was anywhere near winning those games. So he continued his streak of rather dull and uninspiring performances, like Norway chess, 9 draws. He already stole Giri's thunder. Yeah. Anyway, so here Hikaru is trying to get his pieces to the king's side, but that's a long procedure. Now, we're familiar with this move since the game Fischer Magmar Suren, the Mongolian grandmaster, I think 1970 chess Olympian in Siegen, Germany. When Fischer asked his opponent 2 or 3 times how he spells his name, and Magmar, whatever, Fischer just wrote Mongol on his score sheet. Somebody saw that, has a photocopy of that score sheet. Maybe it's in the Hall of Fame museum, along with the rest of the Fischer archive. But at least this is how the legend goes. So he played the game against simply Mongol. At least he didn't write Mongoloid. Well, thank you, Bobby. Anyway, so in that game h4, h5, h6, but here it's not really about h4, h5, h6, but maybe it's also the square on g5. Now, I look at this position, I see only one way for black to play it. You gotta put your queen in the middle. Now, well, maybe tempting white to do this. Now we got d3. As soon as the queens are off, you don't have to worry about your king on the king's side anymore. No. You really would love to see c4, not to mention the whole on b3, of course. Well, if white tries to continue with his plan, he'll probably lose the game on the spot because of the shot knight d4, because there is mate over there. I know it cuts both ways when you put queen against bishop, but no, well, I don't see any productive jumps with the knight in particular. Right here. I can do my tactics combination. Well, maybe I'm not winning any material, but I'm trading stuff. I'm getting the bishop pair. I'm gonna be better now. Bobby Fischer parents migrated from USSR in 1939. His parents? I don't know. Look, I don't want to get into this, Well, I mean, there are no biographical works on Bobby Fischer. Take up that thing called The Endgame, give you all the information. No, I don't think he was coming from the USSR. Maybe, if you can trace, since there was some Jewish blood on him, then you can probably trace it back to Western Europe, the Pale of Settlement, former Russian Empire, but okay, that's searching far and wide. Well, sorry. Anyway, I don't like, that what Bacrot did, this h6. He didn't play queen d5. He had to put the queen in the middle. Look what he did. He played queen c8. Well, maybe he thought it was useful to protect his bishop, but the thing is that because of the pawn on f5, the knight has been driven away. It's a sure sign that white can build up. Now, not every attack is sudden and unexpected. A lot of attacks are slow in coming, but heavy on execution, and they look practically unavoidable. Exactly the case here. Case in point, rook d8. A little too optimistic, right? And there comes Hikaru. Now, it's a typical sacrifice. I cannot give Hikaru any points for originality, but I give him points for consistency and business-like performance. I looked a little bit at this position and I thought maybe king h7 had to be played. Objectively speaking, this move is probably not even better than what Bacrot did. Maybe it's not better than many moves, but it has one practical value because it tempts white to go for a forcing line. Hey, look at this forcing line. Now I got my move knight d4 that I really needed to play a long time ago, but better late than never. And I take. Before you say that queen h5 refutes my play, eventually I'll probably agree with you, but maybe not completely. We'll get to this. You know what I like about this? Trades. I know you get your 4 pawns. I know white is better here. Well, you don't have to convince me. But there is one thing about this position. There'll be no checkmate. Not anytime soon. White has to switch tracks, which is difficult to do in a rapid game. And well, and you probably don't want to play this, because then bad things begin to happen around your own king, or rook d2. Clearly not. Well, white can easily go wrong in this game and not win it. Besides, if the e-pawn moves, there is b2, and that maybe even the a4 pawn can play some role. Can play some role indeed. Well, I personally, as white, would never allow this to happen, if I had any time to think. And I'm sure Nakamura would agree with me that the move bishop e3 has to be played. You can do this knight g5 little later on, when the time is right. For now, keep his knight from d4. Still, king h7 was worth the shot, because here it was very straightforward. White gets all his pieces in. It's not very often you see the attacker willing to trade one pair of rooks. The reason here that he wanted to to take with the knight on e6 that way that he takes back like with a tempo, with rook takes e6, like in this position, and then it hits the queen, and then later I can trade on g7 everything and win that piece back if needed, with bishop takes c6. Or the parents meet each other in Moscow. I thought it was the Clintons. Okay, maybe not. I don't know. Who cares? You can, I don't know, you can meet anywhere, you know, well. I mean, I don't want to talk about this. This subject, you know, has been, as I said, you know, like people did some research. I enjoyed this book by Brady, The Endgame. I think it's kind of a nice account of Fisher's life, and it's not too biased, and it doesn't seem like the author had any kind of political agenda. I mean, okay, maybe it's not the definitive whatever source, but to me it is. I don't know. Anyway, so white is winning here. Let's see how the game ended. Rook d4, that didn't do anything. White has gotten his piece back, and now 3 connected passed pawns, and Bacrot resigns. Alright, so this is how Hikaru won the game. It looks simple, but no, you have to take your games. Maybe we should listen to Maurice Ashley. You gotta be smooth, man, yeah. Yeah, it's not politics, you know. You keep politics out of this. Besides, what politics? The politics is over, you know. I don't see any politics, you know, anymore to discuss. Maybe 6 months ago, maybe even, I don't know, yeah, or a year ago and run up to presidential election. But right now, there's nothing to talk about. Boring. Okay. I really like the next game. I mean, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, no, his play to me, his style was very attractive, you know. He kind of, he's forceful, and yet, you know, there is some elegance in his play. And this game, I think, is prime example. Of course, his opponent MVL, Maxim Vashyevograf, probably had, for sure, had better games. Maybe I can show you one of them still. But this game was kind of signature Mamedyarov performance. So he plays this move. He's a d4 player, but no, he likes to sidestep main theoretical lines, and this move is very well known, and so is this reply. You know, don't be surprised by this. Actually, if you play knight d7, then white enjoys this position, because the black knight is poorly placed on d7. Blocks the bishop. It's not on c6, doesn't protect the c file, doesn't attack d4. Yeah, this is the known move. I think I played it myself. Okay. Now, the only difference is that the knight moved from f6 to b6. I, myself, as a Greenfield player, I would say I'm always happy with that. All due respect to Dr. Zigbert Tarash, that knight on b6 always stands poorly. I mean, at the times the good doctor wrote these words, probably Ernst Greenfield himself was a young man, so his defense was not known. So, fine, the knight on b6. And Shakhriyar is trying to bother this knight. Well, if the knight is forced away, then white gets to win the pawn on d5. But I mean a4, like, black has pieces there. I mean, why not play a5? You say you give up b5? Okay. I can protect my c7 square. I will have a turn, I will go knight b4. I think black's totally fine here. I see no reason to reject this line. How does white make any progress over there? What exactly is he threatening? Probably nothing. I dislike this move e6. No, look at this. I mean, what kind of mix is that? The bishop remains on c8. I know there are some lines where from this symmetrical variation where they take this way, and the bishop is useful on a6 and c5 is coming, but here it's nowhere near. I mean, I think Maxim simply self-restricted, and it was a bad move. Now Shakriar, say a4, h4. No, he likes to probe weaknesses. As a true attacking player, he has the patience, you know. Hunter is always patient, right? Yeah. So he probes here, probes there, you know. Well, kind of, I don't know, kind of fakes you and then pulls back and then, but you know he's always coiled to strike. Lasker was so deep in mathematics. Any mathematicians around here? I mean, I know he had advanced degree in mathematics, and did he get his doctors of mathematics? I'm not sure. I think Lasker had a lot of interest in life, obviously, and no, being a man of his time, he was well educated and all that, but I think his real claim to fame is chess. I know he had some works on philosophy, but no, I know somebody, a chess player, who actually wrote these books in German, because this guy, I mean, it's not German, but he speaks in good German, and he's a philosopher himself. I mean, works in this field. He's a international master, I believe. Anyway, and he said it was just basically usual German 19th century, you know, philosophy. Was nothing special, so not distinguished works. It's pretty hard, you know, to excel in more than one area, even for one person. I mean, even in one area, I meant to say. Anyway, I'm just reading your chat. Okay, anyway, so how's Mamedyarov gonna get through? No, well, first he's patient. He brings his rooks, but look, he's not interested in a c file. The knight on c6, you can't shatter it. This was more of a defensive formation, rather than signal to a storm. What he was really waiting for is this move bishop d7, and now he strikes in the center. Oh, the isolated pawn, so much. And here white is not even challenging this. Besides, he has like the isolated pawn in the Catalan, if you wish. Yeah, but the weakness of the dark squares. And look at this moves. He's just preparing to pounce. There it comes. Okay, g5 was always the answer, right? We cannot do anything else. Now, no rush, no sacrifices yet. Just this little move. Now it's gonna get interesting. In this position, let me get to my analysis, guys. Patience. Yeah. First of all, let's see how Maxim handled this. He played this and got really tangled up with his rooks. Badly, right? This is the game continuation. And he went for this tactical shot that didn't quite work. We return to this. But I want to backtrack. Wouldn't that be better for him to move the other rook? Not to expose that rook to the attack from the white knight. I thought so for a while. But something was always in the back of my mind. Which is, like, why Mamedyarov played h5 and not g5? It could go either way. That pawn can be lost even in the endgame. That sacrifice on g5. You gotta look at the sack on every move. White was just setting it up. And this is what I thought. He would sacrifice. I repeat, only in case of this move. King there. Now, simple. No, this is mate, right? F5. And another move. It kind of looks ridiculous, but how do you protect d5? This. Maybe he will remember this move before, it's a possibility. It's probably gonna be checkmate. Queen takes d5 and then, well, you know the drill. Not to be forgotten this. I think that black king is absolutely abandoned here, and it can only end one way, with checkmate. It was home prep. No, well, very nice, but no, well, he can prep all he wants, you know. I don't think that many people would play e6 in future games. Okay, now, what's the difference, you may ask? Why didn't Shakariar finish the game with the same mating attack? Well, clearly here that the black rook is there, and that may be important, but how it's important? Well, I think this is the difference. Now when you do this, black can play that. We play rook takes, right? We want double check and mate. Well, he takes. That's why the rook was needed on e6. And now in reply to this, black surprisingly can grab this guy. No discovered checks because your queen's under attack, and then you take the other knight. And it's black who's gonna win this game. Well, yeah, kinda. I mean, no, you guys can talk about anything else, but I mean, do you like this game? You know, to me, I find this game very well played. I wouldn't know this game from as you know from a classical game. I see absolutely no indication here that the players were rushed in and they played whatever. No, okay, one guy had got the better out of the opening, and he played well, and the MVL was not able to recover, but it happens all the time. That's why I like to show you better games, and actually this tournament had a lot of real good games. Yeah, there were some blunders. Some otherwise good games were spoiled by blunders. This is the story of Caruana's tournament, right? He starts the tournament with getting winning positions against So, and against... who else was he winning with? Against... I forgot. Nakamura. I think it was Nakamura. And he just blunders both away, not just to half-point turnaround, full-point turnaround. And then, as it happens, you know, first you lose games kind of undeservingly, or you think so. Obviously, no, deserves has nothing to do with that. You leave yourself with a couple of minutes to finish your games. If you're sharp, maybe you can, but no, you're not sharp now. Then you need to leave yourself with more time. Do grandmasters try to keep pieces on the board or try to exchange? No, it depends. If your pieces are better, well, then why exchange? If you plan an attack, you know, you don't exchange. But if you're in a defensive, yeah, the exchanges can relieve your situation, can reduce opponent's attacking potential. When you're up a pawn, maybe you would like to exchange and convert your advantage. The great answer, it depends. Yeah, so what he found here was this. Now it's a tempo, and now knight takes d4. In case you wonder, you know, why bother? Okay, this simple move simply loses the exchange, double attack. Wait a minute, where's my double attack? The knight is on d5, what am I talking about? Where's my double attack? I got it confused with some other variation. Okay. I swear I will make it work. Sacrifice. Take. This. Or you can trade if you want to. I go knight b6. Is this going to work? I never knew I was a genius. I just trapped you, queen. You can resign now. This? Fork? Man, you don't want to resign. Yuck. I thought I played brilliant chess. I didn't. Out of nowhere comes knight takes d4. The fork is there and I do this, you got bishop f5. I don't get to win your queen. Shame. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was possible, but I think MVL really didn't rate his chances very high in defending such terrible looking positions. So he thought, he had to seize his chance and he went for tactics. The refutation was very elegant. Kaboom! You knew it was coming, right? I knew it. As soon as Mamedyarov played h5, I knew sooner or later in the game he will take on g5. Well, why? This is why. No, well, you just cannot do anything here. If this, what's the best? Bishop b4, check. Bishop b4, f5, I take, mate. Probably it will do. Check. Something like this. I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas, but I think this has to be winning for white. What am I doing, eh? I'm blind. This is a nice move, right? I'm winning. I just took my piece back. Well, I could have taken with the bishop. The queen is unprotected. I got it, guys, I got it. I just need a little bit of time. So anyway, he went here and now knight e4. Nice switch. White got his pawn back. Nothing left to do but resign, because obviously Shakhriyar is looking to do this, followed by that. Followed by that. And that. Well, I don't know how to rank games in terms of brilliance, so you guys all have your favorite players. Well, I would give modern players credit for, first of all, playing much more frequently than their predecessors. I mean, literally they travel from one tournament to another. Well, maybe that's the reason why they look little burnout and not improving the way we expect them to improve. But that's how it is. I mean, think about, they're like the real gladiators. They're out there, they're gonna play 18 rounds of blitz. And how many days they will have to rest? Well, some of them, not all of them. Before they travel to Leuven, Belgium. It's not a long drive, I'm sure, from Paris over there, but still, they'll be playing Wednesday. Another 3 days of rapid, followed by another 2 days of blitz. Let's combine this whole thing together. 27 games per event, 9 rapid, 18 blitz. 54 games against some best players in the world. In 10 days? Or is it 11 days? Okay, you get my drift, right? I mean, all due respect to Lasker and Capablanca and Botvinnik, even Bobby Fischer, they never knew such workload. Mistakes are unavoidable, but I tend to look for proper place of mistakes in chess. I mean, they're always gonna happen, you know. Like one player puts pressure on his opponent, and no, often the defender cracks. The perfect game of chess. I don't know if it's ever gonna be played. Maybe it has already been played. Maybe that's Stockfish against Houdini or whatever, Komodo. I mean, I never look at this stuff. I even exclude. I think I delete those games from databases. You know, I just don't want them. I mean, it's different. It's a different thing. It's not chess. Patrick Wolf. Oh, you probably don't know who Patrick Wolf is. He was two-time U.S. champion, and I think he was a Harvard graduate, and then he moved to the Bay Area, and he was working with some startups anyway. But now he's in. Apparently, you know, he manages, you know, some investment fund, you know, that is over $100 million in value. Anyway, so Patrick Wolf, years ago, when this, even before Kasparov Deep Blue, way even before that, I think we played this thing called the Harvard Cup. We were playing computers in some kind of rapid chess with no incremental delay. The computers were weak. But I mean, best American grandmasters, we were winning, but no, sometimes we would lose a game. Anyways, Patrick wrote an article. Right, it wasn't, I mean, I don't remember. It was an article or just a comment, maybe letter to editor. One of chess magazines. I think there was New in Chess, the Dutch publication. Something about computers. And he said, when I hear about competing against computers, I mean, this whole thing for me is full stop right there. Computers do not compete. And nobody ever refuted this point. Computers do not compete. Anyway, I know I could show you more games, but we kind of passed our, I was gonna say, bedtime. I was having long days this week, you know. My wife and I ran a chess camp, you know, in the first half of the day for local kids here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Then, you know, I'm in charge of writing articles at Chess Base and some private lessons, and I'm with you guys, you know. So honestly, I'm kind of looking forward, you know, for this weekend, you know, and well, thanks for your attention. I guess I'll just go to the kitchen, you know, and maybe treat myself to scotch or beer, you know, or gin, whatever, you know. I think I really need it. So anyways, but I'll come back, you know, I'll be following the Blitz obviously tomorrow, and I'll come back, we'll all come back the same time Sunday, 6 o'clock server time, which is Eastern daylight time, for our recap of the Blitz and the entire event. Then we will know who stands where and we'll talk what to expect from the next event. I think it's over, guys, you know, like, I think it's over. Hat tip. Goodbye.